Hi, everybody. Heather here.
And I'm Tom.
We're going to have to do this again because I didn't push the button for Facebook.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
We're
streaming on two platforms at once.
I was waiting for that.
And this is the first look on the YouTube.
On the YouTubes. Okay, so that's going.
This is the more HD version with like a nice camera and stuff.
Okay, so now I'm going to push this one.
For Facebook.
Ready, steady. I hope I put HeatherJustCreate.
We'll see.
Let's see.
This is the beauty of live streams.
Let's see. Okay, we're good.
Cool.
We are in. Yep. Okay. I just need to verify the sound on Facebook. Sorry.
We're a two-person crew. There's no other people.
Okay, let's you just hang out with us.
Yeah, we're just chilling. That sounds
Ooh,
amazing.
It
it's
sounds
like
great.
ASMR.
Don't tap the table.
What?
You tap the table. Sorry. Don't tap the table, babe. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I need to share it. Share. I'm sorry. How do I share? Look at this. It's not.
Well, we can get the show started and share it during the show.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather.
I'm Tom.
Welcome to Sharespark TV.
This is the show that breaks down the impact of digital media, news, pop, and the world around. It's a show about digital media.
Messed up our line.
I did.
It's because he's nervous because he's being interviewed as part of our show today.
Yeah,
on this episode of Sharespark TV. That's what we're going to be talking about. So if you have any questions for Tom Buck of The Enthusiasm Project, a.k.a. So Darn Tom, a.k.a. the 2020 Riverside County Teacher of the Year, tune in and leave your questions in the comments below.
Wow.
Yes. Now you can take it over while I...
So that was a thing that happened yesterday, which...
Yeah, talk about that.
If you're not in the world of education, it might not mean anything, but in the world of education, they nominate Educators of the Year, Teachers of the Year. Usually school sites do it. I was fortunate enough to be nominated for my school site last year in 2018, which then also ended up being the district or school district Teacher of the Year. And then through an interview process, it was this completely insane interview process that led to Riverside County Teacher of the Year. So out of 20,000 teachers in the county, there are 4 who were selected as Teacher of the Year to represent the county, do a whole bunch of official duties, and then also go to represent Riverside County in the state of California for 2020. I believe the state of California does 6 Teachers of the Year, and I looked it up today, and there are roughly 300,000 teachers in the state of California.
Wow. That's crazy. And that's low?
What?
I mean, I guess that's low, right? Because
California is one of the biggest states.
I mean, but aren't we in like a teacher drought?
Well, there's a shortage of teachers, but there's a better economy for hiring teachers. So it's actually a great time if you want to become a teacher. There's like not really been a better time in like 20 or 30 years because there's jobs and no teachers to take those jobs.
Matt says, congrats.
Thanks, Matt.
Yay. Okay, so thanks for that introduction, Tom. I'm going to try to take over in here. I was sharing all of the things. So if you're watching, definitely make sure to hit that thumbs up button. We are streaming live to 2 different platforms right now, one on YouTube and one on Facebook. So if we kind of look like we're crossing our eyes.
The cameras are close, but it's a different camera.
It's a different camera.
YouTube today is a little bit higher quality, but we're kind of like trying to look at both cameras. That's why there's also 2 microphones.
Yeah, but we wanted to just test this out. I'm not really a fan of dual streaming, but I honestly can't say that I've done it before. So that's what we are doing today, and I'm just checking. There it is. Oh, wait. Yes.
Yeah, well, actually, it's not too darn bad.
It
Oh, wait, no,
looks
that's the good one. That's the YouTube one.
Yeah, that's the Facebook one.
Oh, yeah, like YouTube. Dang. It's looking sharp.
So let's just jump into it. Today, the reason, Tom and I were talking about what we were going to talk about today on Sharespark TV, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be great considering this huge achievement that you were honored with yesterday, to take this time to interview you, because on Sharespark TV, where we break down the impact of digital media on news, pop culture, and the world around you.
There it is.
You are a perfect person to talk about what it's like to teach digital media, how you learn digital media in order to come up with lesson plans for high school students to teach them, because, I mean, I can go on and on about your program. I don't know if you guys know about this. I say this all the time, but this is how we met. We met through his program. We met because of his program, and we can explain that later. But what I love about your program and have since day one is that it is truly relevant for the time. And I love just, you also have a YouTube channel, which is relatively new in terms of your teaching career.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's like I'm constantly learning YouTube every day. I am constantly learning social media and digital media every single day. And so are you, because you are a content creator. And what's crazy is that, like, you learn something on YouTube for your own YouTube channel, and then the next day it's in your lesson plan teaching these kids about entrepreneur skills, self-advocacy, creativity, finding their voice, all of that. It's like right away. And I find that extremely lacking in today's education, in the state of education, so those are my thoughts as to, like, why I wanted to ask you to be the guest.
I like it.
On today's episode, but maybe give everyone a background of, like, why did you want to become a teacher?
Okay.
Because did you want to become a teacher knowing that you would be teaching digital media? That's not possible because it wasn't a thing.
Right. No, when I grew up, I was always kind of torn. I always wanted to be a teacher, but I always wanted to go to film school. And my best friend growing up, we would make movies all the time. There's a big pile of VHS tapes behind me that are those movies that I'm in the process of digitizing. And we were always like, we're going to go to film school and make movies. And he ended up doing it. He went to Cal Arts for a bachelor's degree, ended up getting a master's of cinematography from UCLA, super successful, like director of photography and a whole bunch of stuff. Just did it. And I was working at a TV station in high school and doing movies, and I was just kind of realizing that, like, the stress of the industry wasn't, I just didn't like the lifestyle and the uncertainty, and I really kind of craved that certainty, and I wanted stability, and I also wanted to do something. I wasn't sure if going to film school for me was going to be rewarding. It was going to be satisfying, but I don't think it would be rewarding. I want to do something where, like, even on a bad day, you hopefully at least definitely made a positive difference in the world. And so it was my senior year of high school that I was like, you know what? Like, I do want to go to school to become a teacher. And I was always really good at English, and that was just my natural subject. So I wanted to be an English teacher, and I had a few really phenomenal English teachers. And that was it. So senior year of high school, that's what I finally, like, locked down on what I wanted to do.
That's crazy.
Did it, which, like, there's a lot more to it than that, because I also graduated during the Great Recession when there were no teaching jobs, the opposite of right now. There were hundreds and hundreds of teachers laid off every single year. It was like you had to beg and it was impossible to get a job, student teaching for free, like the whole thing, subbing. But did it, became an English teacher, taught yearbook, and then fortunately in my, like, second and a half-ish year, start of third year of teaching, just by coincidence, like, I had just moved classrooms, and Reese spent all summer building up, like, this beautiful new classroom that I had remodeled. And it was something like 3 weeks into the school year, our school had a really great digital media program, and a teacher just announced, he was like, I'm out, I got a different job, I'm leaving. And the principal just knew, luckily, I was terrible at branding or marketing myself in any way. This was in 2012. And luckily the teacher just happened to know that I had the background and was interested and possibly could do a career technical program, and just asked if I wanted to do it. And before I even knew what it was, I said, yep. And then jumped in, had to get a second credential, and just have been teaching digital media for the last 7 years. Started at one program that was already a bit established and kind of helped rebuild it. And then 3 years ago, moved to my current school where I built a program from scratch that's all my own.
Okay, I have 1,000 questions, but just to catch everybody up, in terms of, if you're not familiar with the world of education, I consider myself a little bit more aware because I used to work at a school, and obviously, being with you, but a teacher goes to become a teacher, you go to school to learn how to teach.
Yeah, you get a degree. You can, if you're teaching elementary school, your degree can be in any subject. Your bachelor's degree. If you're teaching high school, it should be in your content area. Then you take a few tests to certify. But once you have your degree to teach at public school anyway, you need to get a teaching credential through the California Department of Education, which is basically like kind of a grad school. So
but it's teaching like how to teach, like specifically
pedagogy.
Yeah, specifically. So like, here's a concept. They don't obviously they don't teach you the concept.
No, because everyone in your credentialing program could
stuff.
teach any grade level, but it goes into everything from like psychological development of students. You know, you go into the whole world of disabilities and special needs, and then you go into just all of those. You go into the education, the ed code, and the world of what you can and can't do in education, because it's not always logical or sensical.
So now let's also, if you're just tuning in, Kai Amir says, great ask. We're also streaming on YouTube. So Idoji Kyakin on YouTube says, congratulations, Tom.
Thank you.
And so does Red Founder. But
Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't there to congratulate you personally in class.
You were sorely missed.
Okay. So now we know how to get from,
how to be a teacher.
To become a teacher, yes. But your program specifically is unique because once you get your teaching credential, you can teach the general subjects. I'm going to call them like math, English, science, history.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to speak to high school and secondary school because that's what I know. So like I have an English degree, and then you get your credential, your single subject credential to teach that subject area. So for me, that was English. You can take some tests if you wanted to, like, well, maybe I want to teach a history class. The tests are kind of hard, and it's a little uncommon for people to do that, but you can. But what happened to me was the teacher who left the media program had an English degree because he was doing like sort of a journalism thing, which falls under English. And I had an English credential, and so the principal just moved me in.
Oh, so it kind of
And then
worked.
The school district looked at it and was like, oh, no. That was old. Like, he's been teaching that for like 10 years. This is a career tech program now. This new guy needs a career tech credential, which I didn't have. And so I had to immediately, without really planning it, re-enroll in another credential program and get a career technical education credential for arts, media, and entertainment. So
for those of us who don't know what a career technical, and I promise this will all tie together.
It does.
But the thing is, like, Algebra 1 doesn't change very often.
Right.
Which AP Lit does not change very often. U.S. history doesn't change very often. But digital media changes every day.
I'll try to give you. I can't help but contextualize. So I'm sorry if the answers are long-winded, but
right.
So a career technical education, it's kind of like in the old days it used to be called voc tech, like vocational ed, where it was sort of the thing. It was kind of looked down on, where it was like the kids who can't do anything, just put them in wood shop or whatever. But as that was phased out over the like late 90s, early 2000s, and it was just more focused on like tests and academics, people kind of realized, oh my gosh, hands-on experience has value. Right. What? And then career technical education was kind of the resurgence of that, but with the idea that it's not just for like the discipline problems, but it's for people who want to develop specific skills, which might go directly into the workforce, but can also go to college. It's essentially like, it's sort of like it was the low thing, and then it kind of went and became like the thing to really help prepare students. And so there's career tech programs and everything from like, I do digital media, arts, media, entertainment is my industry, but there's medicine, there's business, there's education, there's computer science, there's engineering, like every industry you can do career tech ed, and you have to be credentialed in that industry. But here's the cool part. To be a CTE teacher, even though I had a degree and all that stuff beforehand, you actually don't even need a bachelor's degree because you need industry experience. So, for example, I have a friend who was a paramedic for a lot of years and was tired of being a paramedic because it's a rough job. And because he had all that experience, even though he didn't have a degree, went and got his CTE credential because your career experience is your education for CTE.
Exactly.
And so he got the credential to go like, you have this experience, here's how you teach that stuff, and then became a health academy teacher.
Because the way that you teach your program, there isn't a standardized, like, if you're going to teach Algebra 2, these are the chapters that you go through, or
There
these are the
could
books
be.
that like sophomores learn and stuff like that.
There could be. When I took over, so here's kind of the cool story. This is where it gets neat. When I took over my old digital media program, was these weird journalism classes.
Okay.
And literally kids were writing like these articles. We had an app. We were the first high school in the country to have its own app. What? And the app was just these like really kind of dumb stories. And I'm saying this because all the students agree. Where kids would literally come to me. Finally, the breaking point was one day these kids were like, Mr. Buck, we can't make any progress on our story. And I was like, okay, it was still some stuff that had been like assigned before I got there. And I was like, okay, what story are you working on? They're like, it's about like the pothole repair in downtown. And I was like, okay. And they were like, yeah, we called like the city, we called transportation, like no one can answer why these potholes aren't being fixed and we don't know what to do. And I was like, do you want to work on this story? And they were like, no. And I was like, do you think anyone wants to read this story? And they were like, probably not. And I was like, I don't think so either. Like, we should do something else. And then what I realized what kids were doing is they were trying to check out a couple of cameras that the program had to do their like pothole repair stories. And then they would take these cameras and they go make films on the weekend just on their own, like guerrilla filmmaking stuff. And I was like, you guys are taking out cameras to do what you want to do in secret, and we're doing all the stuff that none of us want to do, including me during class.
Homework
and I was like, let's see if we can flip that a little bit. And so we kind of rewrote the courses to be more media production. And, you know, the original courses from like the early 90s or late 80s or something. So we rewrote them as digital media production. And then they went through several revisions over the years. But that's basically what I teach now. And the cool part is, since I wrote the courses, when you teach English, you're like, here is your textbook, and it's the textbook that everyone uses. And of course, teachers put their own spin on it because they're usually pretty smart and want to make it relevant and engaging.
Yeah.
But you're still kind of tethered to this text. Whereas I specifically didn't even write in textbooks. Like my course doesn't have textbooks.
Right.
Because how could you?
Right.
But then also it's digital media production, which sounds great. But if you're like, wait, what is that? It's super broad. So literally it can kind of be anything. And I was just having a conversation with a student today, and he was like, so what do we do next year? And I was like, well, I can tell you what we did this year in that class, but that's not going to be what we do next year, because next year's going to be different. I was like, you know, what you need, like what you want to do could change the class. And
right.
Like we teach Adobe After Effects specifically because a ninth grader started pirating it, and I was like, well, you shouldn't pirate it. It's by legal copies.
Right.
And then that kind of took off because kids like doing visual effects. It's also a really valuable skill to learn, and now it's like part of the curriculum because a ninth grader brought it in like 6 years ago. And that's cool. Like your math class usually doesn't change because a ninth grader decides, like, unless they discover a new formula or something.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I mean, there's so many different crazy facets to your program, and obviously a big part of that is you and being the mastermind behind the whole thing. But you know, I like, as someone who's looking back at my career, which I don't even know how I got to this spot, you know, it's been insane. But like, if I could have taken something like this in high school,
right,
which was so broad, but you know, in a way that I could explore different things and be able to say, I don't like that.
Yes.
But I like this. And I like more of this. And like, you know, Mr. Buck, if I want to explore more audio production, can I go make a podcast? What is your answer to that?
Yeah, that happens all the time.
That's insane, because like in high school I was an okay student, but I just felt like everything was so irrelevant, you know? And I mean, of course there's definitely, you know, the foundational GE stuff that we just have to do, but I mean, there was nothing like this. We had a media, like a broadcast thing, but it was one camera and like terrible.
That's usually pretty typical. For those kind of situations, like when I give a project, I'm usually trying to teach a specific skill. And sometimes it is very program specific. Like I need you guys to learn how to do Photoshop basics because Photoshop is such a critical tool to use. But other times it's like, well, if you're doing branding or logo or do this thing, and if a student goes like, for example, my sophomore's class is doing animation using Adobe Animate right now. And I have one student who really took off with Adobe Illustrator and really loves that program and has been doing some incredible work there. And he was like, Mr. Buck, instead of doing Animate, like since I'm in the middle of this like groove on Illustrator, can I keep working on this thing over here? And my answer is yes, of course. Like that's clearly what you're going to be focusing on. You can build in the animation skills later if you need to, but being able to be a designer using Adobe Illustrator is a really valuable marketable skill. So I'm not going to stop you from something valuable that you're into to handicap you doing something that you don't even care about, at least not right now.
In our district, it is these career technical education programs like at every public school?
There are CTE programs at every school, but they are not the same programs.
Is every student required to take a CTE program?
No, not at ours. Some schools do. It's called wall to wall, where every kid is in one. I'm not a fan of it personally, just because sometimes it really isn't for people. There are some kids that like they just want to do their classes and like play a bunch of sports or something.
Right.
And then forcing them to be in some career program they're not interested in isn't always helpful. That's just my opinion, but every school has. I think health academies are the most common one. Almost like every school has a health academy. But
now, another signature thing with your program and CTE programs in general is that it is a multi-year pathway. This is not just an elective that they take one time.
Right. It's 3 year with an optional 4th year. So it officially starts sophomore year, and then they're expected to commit. We actually have a signing day, like for athletes, where then it goes through junior and senior year, and it encompasses community service and internships and client work and like a whole thing. And there is a 9th grade class if students like coming in kind of like think that they're interested in it. It's kind of an exploratory course. So it's a 3 to 4 year program, which is awesome because you get to work with the same students for all these years, and the growth is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you balance like what the expectations of like what your school thinks that you should be teaching when it comes to digital media? Because I would think that like you're probably way more digitally literate and have more of a pulse in terms of the industry than anyone. Like it's not even close. So they might have an idea of like, based on traditional media, there's broadcast, there's journalism, there's a camera and photography and all of, blogging maybe. But how do you, like, do they have any control in terms of like, you think teaching YouTube is super relevant and they're like,
yeah, I mean, they have control. They are the bosses. But fortunately, the program I started with at my former school, the program was such a value. That was like the district's capstone program. It was actually one of out of the 435 academies in the state of California, it was one of the top 7. So it was a very respected program, and its value was evident. And so luckily our school site administration was just like, you guys do whatever you do because it's good for everybody.
Because it seemed like my impression of education is that it's always late.
Yes.
It's like,
it is.
Oh, this is a skill that we kind of need right now.
Yeah. Let's
begin the whole process of trying to let it become curriculum. And that takes like years.
Yeah.
So I have been in awe of your program that like I said, you can learn something today. Look at like this setup, and you can teach it to the kids tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's why I took my current job, because 4 or 5 years ago, the district I'm in now, we used to do outreach, and they kind of came over and learned about my program and really liked it. And we were kind of helping them develop the first one, and then it just sort of turned into like, they essentially said like, we really like what you're doing. If you want to do it here, like we just trust you to do it your way. And it was that trust. So even though they could come in and say, it has to be this way, it needs to do this.
You've proven yourself.
I took the job because of the trust and because of the respect, and it's evident to them, even if they don't understand like exactly every nuanced thing that's happening. They can tell from the students, they can tell from the work, they can tell from the community reaction. Like, you don't have to know every detail to know when something is working, and it's not their job to know every detail. It's my job to know that. And to see the small picture, they see the big picture. I just need to deliver the big picture. I mean, that's kind of like the simplified way to put it. And that's just being fortunate enough to be in a supportive environment.
So what's it like teaching digital media to high school students? I mean, I'll ask it in the way of like, these are students who youngest was born in
2003. This year. It'll be, oh God, next
year
they'll be the year I graduated. Oh no.
Yeah. So,
oh no.
Okay. They were definitely born and grew up in a world where Facebook was a thing, or not. Well,
they don't remember a world without YouTube.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
What's that like? Do you run into any like gaps?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens, but it's
On like just even like on how a human functions kind of way. Because I remember you telling me the example of like, something about the monitor and like the tower.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
And they didn't know what that was.
Yeah, which is luckily, like, we have iMacs now, so it just confuses the issue. But prior to that, years ago, when it was a computer lab where you have like the computer monitor and then the computer tower, like kids just didn't understand that there was a difference, and so you'd say like, "Oh, turn off the computer," and they would turn off the monitor. Like, that's
You
not the
didn't
computer.
Yeah. Well, that's just like they don't know this equipment over the other.
But that was when I first started seeing savviness versus literacy.
Yes.
Because savviness is like, I'll push the button on the thing and it turns off. But literacy is knowing what everything does and why. And that was 2011 or 12 when I was like, this is an issue. And obviously, like, it's become more of a thing since then. But it's really just how they are using the tools.
Because here's what I've noticed. First of all, let's check in with the comments. Doji says, I definitely wish my high school had it.
Yeah.
Could have made for a 10 times better experience in learning environment.
So this I meant to say earlier. I have 2 goals every year, which is one, when people come and visit, luckily every single person says it, I wish I could have this in high school.
Yeah.
And that's my goal too, is I want to build the thing I wish I had in high school, because I think that's important. And 2 is, like, today was the senior last day, so we still have 9th or 11th graders, but seniors are gone. And my goal is every year when seniors leave that they go like, oh, it's not fair, you're going to do that next year? Like, oh, I want to do, like, because that means the program is growing. So those are my 2 things to keep the program going. It's kind of related to a Doji's thing.
And Sandra is here.
Hey,
Hi,
Sandra.
Woohoo. Congratulations, Tom. You've made quite an impact. Hey, Heather. Both of you have the wind against your back and are doing phenomenal things this year.
Thank you.
There you go.
We're trying very hard to do positive things.
Yeah.
Because it's important. You and I both are aware that regardless of what's happening in a big picture of the world, you can really make much more of a difference in your immediate sphere of influence. And so you can sit there and yell at the internet, or you can go do something. And it's
100% believe that.
Very few people do something. And so if you're willing to, you're usually welcomed with pretty open arms, because people need the help to do things.
Yeah. I totally forgot what I was going to say, and I knew I was going to, but...
We were just talking about teaching digital media and kids using tools and the differences, and one thing you noticed was, and
gosh, I'm gonna fight myself.
We were talking about them just using things differently, and is there a gap, and what's it like teaching digital media to...
Oh yeah, see, there we go. So my impression is that a lot of people who are like our age and older will look at a teenager and be like, well, you know how to do that.
Right, that's the mistaken literacy.
So explain what it is that you think they know how to do and what in reality they don't. It doesn't even translate, because I think a lot of people are like, you know how to do that in terms of you know how to post on Facebook.
Right.
You know how to post on Instagram.
That's savvy.
Yeah. But if you were to say, like, you know,
here's the example. Go ahead. Because I deal with this, and this is literally what I tell them regularly. Savviness is knowing how to use stuff.
Yes.
And so you know how to post on things, and you know how to edit a video, and you know how to do that kind of stuff. That's savvy. Kids know how to do that because they're born into it. They don't really consider it a skill. Like, it's just a thing that you do. The literacy component comes into more how you're using those tools. Like, you know, simple stuff, even like making sure that your social media presents a good image. So like, what are you posting? That's not an uncommon thing to talk to students about. But the bigger literacy component comes to when things stop working, what do you do then? Because it's really not hard to learn how to do something, but then when something doesn't work, like you're trying to do a live stream, there's no audio or it's not synced. That's when so many times students, when they're just starting out, will like, I can do this. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, it's not working. And then they just stop. And the key is,
they don't know how to go on Google. Like, that's not their default
it doesn't even, it's just, oh, this doesn't work. I can't do this anymore.
Oh, how weird.
And so to build literacy is to build a thing of like, oh,
problem solve.
Yeah, the critical thinking, problem solving, which doesn't even matter what the thing is, the knowing how to find the information.
Right, recognizing there's a problem and you're doing whatever you can to figure out a solution.
Yeah, that's the key. And that's, once they start doing that, then I just become a facilitator. Like, because then they have a goal, they have a thing, and it's like, oh, I can offer input, feedback.
Do you notice, is there a trend of when that happens, when that clicks?
The biggest click on average between sophomore and junior year. The transformation is unreal.
Wow, that's
It's
cool.
crazy. It's awesome. I don't know what it is between that, but that's where like kids leave at the end of sophomore year and they come back like young adults, and they're just I think they're just more aware that like, oh gosh, time is running out for like childhood and youth, and they just sort of become more aware of they have control over things, and you know, it's just more assertive. They're older and they're in, you know, there's no more older kids ahead of them anymore like there used to be, so they just step into the role.
Okay, so we are going to take this time right now. I think this is a good time to take a commercial break. And Tom has a very special, I don't know, entertainment for you.
Yeah, this is unrelated, but I'm so excited about this
because I don't even know.
I'll let's tie it into digital media, okay?
There you go. Okay.
So,
Sharespark TV.
digital media. Here's the thing. I was on Reddit a few weeks ago.
Yes, you were.
Because as I tend to do. And I was reading a thread that was on Ask Reddit, and it was former inmates and prisoners of Reddit, what is the one thing you miss from prison? And unanimously, I forget how many thousands of replies there were, but thousands of upvotes. The top comments were the whole shebang. And I was like, what?
The whole shebang.
What is the whole shebang? And apparently, the whole shebang is a brand of chips that are available in prisons. Potato chips. To the point where even some people were like, yeah, when I went back to prison, I was super depressed, but at least I knew I would get the whole shebang.
Is it that good?
I don't know. Because you can't buy them anywhere. They are distributed by a company that only distributes food to prisons. And I was like, I just thought that was really interesting. I was like, wow, I'd love to try those chips one day. How crazy. And then randomly, 2 weeks later, in my YouTube recommended feed was like an Inside Edition story from a couple years ago where they were like, prison chips, what's the thing? And it was this whole investigative thing into like this guy trying to find these chips and what's the story behind them. And I was like, how interesting that this is randomly popping up. And then I looked into it and I found a seller on eBay that has some kind of connection with the distributor. And if you place your order, they will order a pack. They can get them from the distributor and send them to you. So anyway.
Wow.
As of today, I have a few packs of the whole shebang.
You guys. Here they are in all their glory.
I mean, it's really like when you think of like something that's available in prison, you don't think of like this looks like something you would see in the store. It's like there's a story on the back. What they were doing in the Inside Edition thing is they were taking the bag and putting in like ramen and all this stuff and making like weird soup and crunching them up.
Okay. No, but we're gonna eat them pure.
But let's read here. So
let's read.
Ingredients aren't really anything different than other chips. There's nothing really crazy. I think they're like everything flavored chips. But here we go. Sometimes going a little over the top is a good thing. In the case of the whole shebang family of products, it's a very good thing. The whole shebang potato chips, with their one-of-a-kind taste experience, were an instant hit when they first appeared on our Moon Lodge line of munchies, and they've been a snacking favorite ever since. Now, that uniquely delicious medley of flavors is a brand all its own. Take your zest threshold to the next level. Check out our full line of super seasoned, taste-tastic items, each with its own amped-up spin on the distinctively intense invention that is the whole shebang. So, it just says super seasoned snacks.
There you go.
The potato chips with the incredible flavor that started it all. Oh, I'm excited.
By the way, the best before date is
September 2019. So these are still
we
there.
Are fresh.
Yeah,
yes.
They're legit fresh. So I need to leave my eBay feedback.
AA Run says, woo. Doji says he's going to have to ask his uncle about the chips.
Uh-oh.
And Derek Snyder says, hello, how's everyone doing? Hi, Derek. So if you're just tuning in, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, we are trying these potato chips that are only available in prisons.
So they smell just kind of like potato chips, but there's an extra little something in there. You have a more sensitive sense of smell than I do.
There is something.
It just smells like potato chips, but there's like an extra.
There's like a
barbecue-y, spicy kick. Yeah. Okay, I've been looking forward to this all day.
I bet you can't eat the whole shebang. Okay, wait, we're doing this ASMR
here we go.
style. Here we go.
Sorry.
Tom closes his mouth. He doesn't know how to do it. Are these the best chips you've ever had?
I need to eat several more. They kind of almost taste like Pringles in a weird way.
First impression, how's the texture?
The texture is Pringles-like, but the flavor I cannot describe.
You can't describe the
It's
flavor.
got almost a citrusy thing
All right,
going on.
Here we go.
But it's real good. I can real see how these are addictive.
All right, guys. Barbecue.
There's barbecue. There's like a lime or something.
There's a lime, citrus, yeah.
They're real satisfying. Salty.
Lime. We said that already.
Yeah, well, what's in the ingredients?
Salt.
Canola oils, onion powder, citric acid, garlic, paprika, extractives of paprika, turmeric, natural smoke flavor.
It's good.
They're good. I like them.
They're good. I wish I had a sandwich.
These are
not
for
keto.
Oh, okay. I like them.
They're like soft on the chew.
That's why I said they're like
crunchy, but
Pringles. Because Pringles are really soft, kind of.
They're crunchy but soft. I can't explain it.
The flavor hits at the beginning. It's like boom.
If you're just tuning in, these chips are only available in prisons. But Tom got his hands on them because apparently that's like the number one thing that inmates miss when they leave jail. Oh, we had to try them for ourselves. And how did you discover these chips? On Reddit, which is a digital media platform. Tying it back to Sharespark TV.
There we go. This is having an impact on the world around me.
Oh, wow. Those are really good. Yeah. Okay.
No. Yeah. I got a 6-pack
All
of
right.
chips, not.
Suarez says, yes, ASMR. Yep. There's our YouTube audience.
I'm going to bring a bag of these for one of my classes tomorrow.
We gotta get in there, you know. All right.
These are good. These would be great on a sandwich.
Heather, have you listened to the podcast Blackout? I've not. Well, actually, since we've got YouTube on here, and we haven't gone live on YouTube in a long time. I haven't uploaded on this channel in 2 months. But we want to bring back Sharespark TV. Well, we have been doing Sharespark TV, but we've been doing it on Facebook, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it yet. There's no significant growth or anything. I should be looking at Facebook since there they are. But we want to bring it back to YouTube, so we were thinking, like...
These are so good.
This dual setup, does this work? Do you have any feedback? We want to just keep talking about digital media commentary and news and stuff. But we want to make it in a way where we are not going insane, because the way that we used to do it was we would stream on Facebook, right? First.
You would do 2 back-to-back streams.
Yeah.
So they were like an hour long each.
And it just was, I mean, by the time we signed off, we were just fried.
Because it was after like a work day and the whole thing. So that was really tough. What we've been doing on Facebook is really fun. Like, because Heather went to Social Media Marketing World in March. Yeah. And they talked about Facebook video really likes things under 20 minutes. And so we're like, oh, let's do Sharespark as like a really short 20-minute thing. And that's been really fun. This has been going way longer, 20 minutes, but that's cool.
We're like at 38, but...
But that's been really, really fun, and it's been fun and not work. And I like that because I think it makes the show better.
But also another problem that we used to run into was we would kind of talk about the same things. It just was weird. So I don't know. If you have any feedback, since you guys are tuned in, we'd love to hear it. Wow. But if you're just tuning in also, Tom had the honor of being recognized as one of our county's Teachers of the Year. There are 4 out of 20,000. And he was surprised yesterday, but it has been a whole year-long process. Honestly, it's been a career-long process to have built the program, to get the kids to actually go through the thing, come back, have results, like the tweaking and the research and all of this. Like, it's a whole... there's a lot of time, effort, and energy that went into...
Yeah.
But I'm so excited that not only are you getting this recognition, because I think it's well deserved, but also shining light on your freaking program that is so important. Like, honestly, guys, you're on YouTube. You if you're watching this live stream, you're a fan of YouTube. And the fact that it is not, this kind of education on digital media is not available to every student, like, freaks me the heck out. I just feel like, how could you not, like, how is the answer just abstinence or nothing? You know what I mean? Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no regulation, or there's, like, complete abstinence. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about like students who don't go through your program, like even on a basic level?
I mean, it's tough because they get. I think they're at a disadvantage because their savviness with technology gets mistaken for literacy, and people just assume they know what they're doing, and then they don't, and it's not even their fault, and they can be kind of good at some things, but they don't have the advantage of like really understanding it, and they're also thrown into situations where people who are older than them look at them and go like, oh, you know what you're doing, and they don't, and it's not even their fault. It's like literally no one taught them, and they might not even know what they don't know.
Exactly, because they... Like, how do you know what they're doing if you don't know yourself?
Right. Oh my god. These are good. Sorry.
You have tears in your eyes.
These are so good.
Doji says I'd go back to high school just to be in the program. Me too, dude. Straight up.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's a
so
lot of work,
cool.
but it's fun, and it's great now that this program specifically has been around for several years because it's starting to build that, like, there's a community and a culture there that has to take time to develop, and that's very cool.
Sean Fitzgerald says, congrats, and then also, is that a DSLR emoji shirt?
Oh yeah, it is. It's a Canon shirt. Heather got it for me at VidCon last year, and I like to wear it because it's relevant to school, and it gives me an excuse to wear a t-shirt to school.
Yeah.
Because when I started teaching, my first 4 years, I wore shirt and tie every day in the desert. Just miserable. You look sharp, but...
Sandra said, is it okay to put the article
Yeah,
about...
that's totally fine.
Yeah. So it was crazy because the principal of his school contacted me on Monday and was like, Tom got it. But don't tell him.
It was this crazy evaluation interview process.
Okay, so real quick. Tom got the teacher of the year of his high school. Okay, so there's 2,000 students, 60-something teachers maybe. Yeah. And he was one of the teachers of the year, okay? From the local high schools, they all go in the running for the district's teacher of the year.
Our district is 30,000 students, 7 high schools. I forget how many teachers.
Well, 7 high schools.
Teachers.
Yeah, because they choose a high school teacher.
High school,
of the year
middle school, elementary school. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Tom, out of the entire school district, was chosen as the district teacher of the year, and then all of the districts in the county submit their teachers of the year to go in the running for the county teachers of the year. How many counties are there? No,
in California.
Districts.
No. And districts, there's 25-ish. I'll know that number real well soon. But it's around 25. Riverside County spans from past the Salton Sea out to Blythe, down towards Temecula, the whole Coachella Valley, a little bit of the desert areas, and then going to Riverside and Corona, kind of borders up against San Bernardino and Orange County. So yeah, it's a very long stripe across the state.
And you were chosen as a finalist to there were 8 finalists.
We had to do a big interview, so all the teachers of the year for districts, of which however many there were, lots I guess, had to do these applications. Applications was a huge thing. We turned those in. Then they announced finalists. I think there were 33 finalists, and then those finalists had to go through an interview process. And then
also, these are not just 15-minute interviews. These are panels.
Yeah, there's 10 to 12 people on the panels.
Yeah, and they're
and they're all really nice. Most of them are teachers of the year, former teachers of the year, principals of the year. They know what you're doing, but they're timed and they're very fair. So they have a timer that's running right next to you, and they're asking you questions. You're just kind of looking at the timer. So we did the interview process with that. From there, they narrowed it down to 8, and then they did site visits for those 8 teachers over the last week, which each visit was 3 hours. It was 3 hours where they observed the teacher, they interviewed the teacher, they interviewed students, they interviewed administrators, teachers, they interviewed parents. This is a huge thing, and then orchestrating that, trying to get parents available on a weekday morning to just come and talk about one of their kids' teachers. That's...
Yeah, and so out of the districts, or every district in the county then submits their teacher of the year to go up for the county, and 4 are chosen
for the county.
For the entire county.
2 of them actually came from our district this year, so we're proud. It's me and a middle school teacher.
And then there's more.
Oh.
Then the county teachers of the year are now in the running to go for California State Teacher of the Year, and then obviously from there,
the universe,
the United States Teacher of the Year, which I saw that our president is thinking about getting rid of, which makes me really annoyed. Oh, but that's okay.
I'm not in a position to make political comments.
But I mean, the fact that it's getting this recognition is just like I'm so excited, proud of you, so excited for like.
We'll get to do cool stuff now this year,
and it adds cred to your program. Yeah. Like, you know, within the school, I hope it.
It's good for our city. It's good for our school. It's good for my program. Obviously, it's good for me. It's good for a lot of people, and I'm excited because over the next year, I'll get to spend a lot of time. One thing I never get to do is really see other teachers. And I'll get to see so many other teachers over the next year.
So let me tell you the flip side, right? Yeah. Tom, it's like, his job is so hard, okay? He leaves home at 6, so gets up at 5 to, like, get ready, breakfast, the whole thing, and doesn't come home till about 3.
Between 3 and... Yeah, and sometimes later if it's a weird day.
And, like, before we met, would never take a lunch, would have the students eat lunch in his classroom, so he just never had a break. And, like, you know, 200 to 250 students every day that you're interfacing with. Yeah. And these kids are holding, like, several $100s, couple $1,000s worth of equipment each. Then, like, you're evaluating all of their work, you're teaching them all of these things. Like, you're it's just so jam-packed. Plus, I have experience with this because you're digital media, because you're photo, your video, you capture the memories. It's very easy for little side projects to just be dumped into your lap because you make it look so easy to capture these memories. And that was kind of my position at the school I worked at. But it was just like, can't you go to this event? Can you go to this sport thing? Can you go to this, you know, award ceremony or this performance or whatever? And it's like, not only do you have your full-time job, but there's all these other pieces. So anyway, I want to say that I think you're incredible for being able to balance all of it. I hope you know that your effort is recognized and appreciated.
I feel like it very much.
Yeah, but also like you're a Superman for figuring out all of this.
It's always a work in progress. I wouldn't say it's figured out, but it's work in progress.
But it's also like hard. It's just straight up hard. Like,
it's exhausting.
I see Tom come home and I'm like, I've interacted with 2 creatures today, Ben and Ollie. That's it. He comes home and he's like white, just drained. And I'm just like, how? You're so, like, it's crazy.
It's exhausting, but I don't know. It's a positive.
What keeps you going, Tom?
It's reward. It goes back to the thing in high school where it's like you really do feel like it helps, and especially now this time at the end of the year, that's when kids start actually telling you, especially if they've been with you for a few years and they're leaving, they tell you
they can express
what they're saying, and there's stuff that you're like, stuff you don't even think of, because I'll go into class, I'm like, I'm gonna do this thing today, and this is gonna be the most memorable thing ever. No one remembers that, but there's some little thing from like 2.5 years ago that like
little comment
you completely forgot about, where you're like, oh, you gave me a thing, or you said this, or you helped me do whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, and they're like, that changed the course of my life. Or other stuff where they're like, I was going through depression and I was suicidal and I was dealing with abuse and I was going through this, and you're like, oh, I had no idea, and like this was the thing that got me through it, and like this is why I'm graduating, and this is why I come to school, and this is where I found where I belong. And it's like, oh, okay, so I am tired in the morning and I am tired when I get home, but that's a pretty important thing to be able to do with the time in between.
Right.
Yeah. And I like that. That's a really good, even on a bad day, that some little glimmer of that had to happen somewhere.
Right. A Doji on YouTube says, do they have creative writing at your school, Tom?
We don't have creative writing classes, but fortunately we do have a really strong English department where even though it's, the standard English curriculum, the teachers are really good at infusing creativity into the curriculum. So there are chances for students to do that. And a lot of our English teachers are English nerds who like it, and, are active writers and published authors and things like that, where that's what they do. It's like me making videos, like they write stuff. So it's hard to not share that excitement with their students.
Right. They are doing the thing that they're teaching.
Yeah. One of my seniors today, I mean, granted, she was finishing the class before it was due for her final, but her English final was to do a screenplay adaptation of Hamlet, and she was fitting it into like Mean Girls. I was like, that's cool. That's fun. Like, you have to really have an understanding of a lot of different things to do that. And it sounds like a silly project, but when you really get down to it, you're like, oh, that requires a pretty level, like, in-depth understanding.
So let's wrap it up, because
Okay.
It's almost an hour, and someone wants to go for a W.
The whole shebang over here. These are so good. Go on eBay.
What do you think about the state of education?
What do you mean?
If you had it your way, and you were whoever the highest person is in terms of like the board of education of the entire United States.
The emperor of education.
For high school students.
Right.
How would you kind of grade or evaluate our current education system, and would you change anything?
I'd have to give it 2 grades.
Okay.
I would grade the system pretty low, because I think that it's broken in so many ways. I don't think I'm the first person to say that.
An example.
I mean, class sizes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have classes of 46. Like, how do you provide individual instruction to that? You don't.
Okay.
You just don't. So that kind of stuff is really, really difficult. Standardized testing. I don't know if I should be saying these things, but standardized, it's things that aren't about educating the students. But the flip side is when you go beyond the system and you look at the majority of the people working within the system, I would give it a really high grade, because very rarely have I met teachers who really are slackers. They for sure exist. The ones that show up like late, they leave early, and
that's in every.
Yeah, that's in every job though. The majority of teachers I know and I've worked with
want to be there.
Are really, really giving it their all, and they do voluntary Saturday schools just so their kids have a place to go, and they really go above and beyond. They put a lot of their own money and energy into their curriculum, into their classes.
And I think it takes a certain person to be like, yeah, I want to be a teacher. I want to be trained to be a teacher. They know what they're getting into.
Virtually every teacher I've known has been very student-centered, where it's you do need to teach their curriculum, but you need to understand like who you're teaching it to.
Yeah.
And that is so strong. And I think that hopefully there can be more of a bridge built between those two things, where the system focuses more on the students rather than trying to get the students to fit into the system. A lot of people compare like, why can't America do what they do in like some of the Northern European countries where there's like 100% literacy rate and teachers are this highly respected profession and yada yada. And there's a lot to be learned there, but like also the population of our county is some of those countries. Like, it's hard to deal with such a diverse, massive population that you're also trying to standardize. So, our country just has different challenges than those countries do. But I mean, the more control you can give to the teacher of their classroom and the more that they can be empowered to benefit their students, the better.
Great answer. Now, for the last question, Valerie Romero says, hi, Heather, and congratulations, Tom, Teacher of the Year. That's wonderful. Yes. So the last question would be, because it's the end of May, going into June, it's graduation.
Yeah.
We're singing the songs. We're reflecting back, all of the things. We're acknowledging progress. What is your advice to the class of 2019? What would you tell them? What would you tell the class of 2019? Because I know you were about to say work hard, be kind, have fun. But you tell that to every student. So specifically to this
to
class.
this specific class, you are in a position very unlike really anyone else that's ever come before you, where you are so able to be in control and empowered towards constructing the future that you want for yourself. And there are systems in place. There's college and there's careers and there's family pressures and there's all of these things that exist that can be to your benefit or to your detriment. And the best thing that you can do is, in whatever way is effective to you, look at that and see how that fits into your vision of your future. And you might not know what your future is in 20, 40 years, but think of a few years, think of 5 years, think of where you want to be, what's going to help you get there. And there's absolutely nothing wrong in 2019 with taking your own path to getting there, even if it's not a traditional path. Because if you're motivated and you're hardworking and you're dedicated to achieving whatever you're going to do, you will find a way to be successful.
There are ways. There just are ways.
You do not need to wait for permission.
Yep.
You need to make the opportunities for you to take.
That was great. Good job. That's
Mic
fantastic. So anyway, that is Sharespark TV. If you are not subscribed to the Enthusiasm Project on YouTube for some reason, go check it out. I can't say enough good things with what Tom's doing on his channel right now. It's all it's just all super cool. He knows a lot more about YouTube now than I do, so stay tuned for Zero's YouTube Hero Round 2 by Tom. He's also Sodar and Tom on Instagram or Twitter. And yeah, check me out, HeatherJustCreate. You're obviously here on my YouTube channel, but leave us any feedback. We want to do Sharespark TV, especially with the summer being around the corner, so we want to bring this show back. And I am coming back, waiting for June to officially resurge.
I appreciate all of your unending support and dealing with when I'm cranky or complaining and understanding the world in which I function and then trying to help other people understand it. I really appreciate it very, very much. No one else has ever sat through my full work schedule before. She's the only person on the entire planet who's actually been through, other than me, my entire schedule from start to finish.
It's fun. I love you.
I love you too.
All right, guys. Really quick. Sandra, did you eat the whole shebang? Thanks, guys. Wish you continued success. We did not.
I could, though.
It's a big bag, but...
There's a little shebang left. There's 6 servings in the bag, it says.
Boom. There you go. Yeah, he's about to eat 6 servings.
I don't think there's any MSG in there. I don't know if MSG is actually bad for you or whatever. But...
I don't think it is anymore. But I wish they're really potato-y. I kind of wish I had ketchup.
Oh, they would actually go good with ketchup.
Wow.
Like fries. They're like seasoned fries.
They taste like curly fries. They taste like curly fries.
They kind of do.
Like seasoned steak fries.
They're good. Gosh, they're good. Anyway.
The whole shebang. Okay, we're out.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Facebook. Bye, YouTube.